All right, so Thanksgiving's coming up. You want to blow all your loser friends away with your pumpkin pie. So I'm going to show you how to make it two ways. We're going to test out what's better, using evaporated milk and sugar or sweetened condensed milk. We're also going to make some homemade whipped cream from scratch, which is delicious. That's it. Super simple. Let's go. There's a debate on the internet about how to make pumpkin pie. One uses sweetened condensed milk, and the other uses evaporated milk and a whole bunch of sugar. So I'm gonna make both of them, and we're just gonna try them and end this debate once and for all. First thing we need to do is cut up a couple of sugar pumpkins. Don't use the big boys you use for carving, because they're not sweet and they're like really stringy and full of water. These guys are gonna taste delicious. I mean, once we load it with sugar and all this other stuff. But yeah, let's get these cut up. We're gonna put them in the oven at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes to an hour until they're soft and you can kind of pierce the flesh with a fork really easily. These weigh in total about 8 pounds. So yeah, let's go. Oh, got him. Flip it over. Boom. 1. And 2. All right, now we're just gonna scoop out the seeds and put them on this foil-lined baking sheet and throw them in the oven. You wanna get as much of this sort of stringy stuff out of here as possible. If you've got one of those like pumpkin carving kits that has a little scraper, it's perfect for this. All right, so we're gonna save these, make some pumpkin seeds for later, but that's not what this is about. So the pumpkin, we got our pieces ready to go. And we're just gonna drizzle these with a little olive oil. Nothing too crazy. Tablespoon or 2. Just kind of rub it in and flip them over. All right, and that's really it. What you can do is use canned pumpkin puree. Libby's is sort of like the brand that everybody's obsessed with. You can't really taste much of a difference, but this is just a little bit more fun, so I'd recommend getting a little sugar pumpkin and doing it this way. Into the oven. 400, the lower third, and we'll check on that in about 45 minutes, and we'll see how we are. All right, so let's check on the pumpkins. Looking about done. Let's double check with a fork. Whew, oh yeah, she's tender. We're gonna let it cool out, and then we'll throw it in a blender and make the puree. Pre-made pie crusts. I'm not making my own pie crust. You can if you want. It's actually not too difficult, but these are just so much easier. So what we're gonna do is blind bake these pie crusts, which means we're gonna pop them in the oven and get the crust cooked through a little bit so that when we put the pumpkin pie mixture in it later and bake it, the bottom doesn't get all soggy. Pie crust. I'm gonna let them sit out of the fridge for a little bit and warm up just a bit so you can work with them. Working kind of quickly to not get this thing too warmed up. I want to keep it cold. And we're just gonna go ahead and pop it on here. Now we're not gonna like push down on this. We're just gonna kind of tuck and push it into the bottom so you don't stretch it too much. Too deep. We're gonna go with this shallow guy. It's not quite as good as like a glass baking sheet would be, but it'll do the job. Just gonna kind of let it fall in there. I'm gonna tuck this underneath here, just like this. Now we're just gonna kind of push in with our thumb and out with our other 2 fingers here. Don't have to be perfect, you know? There we go. One's done. And we're gonna put some parchment paper down in this. And we are gonna take some beans and put them in here to keep it flat. You can use like baking rocks, balls, whatever the hell they're called. But you can also use just rice or beans or lentils. You just put it in there to weigh it down so that when you bake it, it doesn't like puff up and go crazy. There we go. Ooh. All right, so I'm gonna keep this in the fridge while I work on the other one. Should be good. Gonna toss this in the oven, 375. It's on convection bake. And we'll check on it. We don't want it to get too cooked through. We just want it to be like starting to get golden. Do the next one. Pop it in. Cool. Check on those in like 15 minutes. Pumpkins cool down. We're gonna throw it in the blender, make a quick puree. Super simple. Just gonna scoop it out. Time to blend it. That's it, pumpkin puree. You can buy it in a can, but honestly, it's pretty easy just to do it really quickly in the oven. And this looks like it got me about 5 cups according to this thing, is that right? You need 2 cups per pie or 1 can of pumpkin puree, which is like 15 ounces from the store. Here's everything that's gonna go in this pumpkin pie filling. It's gonna be 2 cups of pumpkin puree. It's gonna be a teaspoon of vanilla extract. It's gonna be our spice mixture, which is basically cinnamon, ground cloves, ground ginger, some nutmeg, and a little bit of salt. And for this pumpkin pie, we're gonna do some evaporated milk and a half a cup of brown sugar and a third of a cup of white sugar. So now the only difference between this one and the other pumpkin pie we're gonna do is that instead of the evaporated milk and the sugar, we're just gonna do 1 can of sweetened condensed milk. Other than that, it's exactly the same. Oh, and 3 eggs at room temperature. 2 cups of puree, 3 whole eggs, can of evaporated milk. You could also use whole milk or heavy cream, but this is what we're doing. Throw our spices in. About a half teaspoon of salt, brown sugar, dark brown sugar, packed. Third of a cup of just plain old sugar. Last but not least, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Give this a mix. That's it. We got our 2 fillings here. This one has white sugar, brown sugar, and evaporated milk, and this one has no added sugar, just sweetened condensed milk. I'm gonna bust out the pie crust here. They're just getting golden. They're not like too far cooked, but they're right where we want them to be. Okay. All right, now we're going to do what's called docking. Just gonna poke a couple of holes in the bottom. Now we're gonna pop them back in the oven for like 5 minutes, and then they're done and they're ready to go. All right, 5 minutes later, and the crusts are ready to go. I smashed this one a little bit, but it's all good. Now, before we ruin this whole thing and forget which one's which, I'm gonna use a red toothpick and mark it in the one that uses the sugar. Little toothpick going back there. Perfect. And we're just gonna pour this on in. This is sugar and evaporated milk. All right, now we're gonna do the one with condensed milk. Got our pies ready to go on this super dirty baking sheet. I'm just gonna kind of get some of the air bubbles out. You can already see that the one with the sugar in it has much more air bubbles. Maybe some sort of scientist in the comments can let me know what that means. By the way, like and subscribe if you like these videos. We're just gonna pop these in the oven at 350 for 50 minutes to an hour, low and slow. Ooh, almost lost him. See you soon, my friends. That's it. Okay, it's been about 50 minutes, so let's take a look and see how these bad boys are doing. Woohoo! Now, those are some good looking pumpkin pies. There's no crack or split. They're not like watery or anything. None of the typical issues you get with pumpkin pies are happening. This one's got like a little tear here, but I'm not too worried about that. So this is the one with the sugar. This is the one with the condensed milk. This one's a little bit puffier, but they both look delicious. We're gonna let these cool for like a couple hours, and then we're gonna pop them in the fridge and let them chill overnight, and then we'll be back tomorrow to try them in the morning. All right, so the pumpkin pies are done. They've been in the fridge cooling for a day. And now it's time to make some whipped cream, because that's gonna make this 100 times better. The way to make whipped cream is to start with a super cold bowl. I'm gonna put a little bit of heavy cream in here and like a tablespoon of powdered sugar, and we're gonna crank until it's whipped cream. Now we're just gonna whisk this. This part, not gonna lie, it sucks. It takes a while, but if your bowl is cold, it'll go a lot faster. Whew. This See how thick it's getting. Homemade whipped cream is like significantly better than canned whipped cream or Cool Whip. I'm telling you, if you've never made this at home, you gotta do it, really you do. Now you can see, nice and thick. Super good. We got our pies out of the fridge. They've been in there for a day. They've been cooled down. Now this is the one with evaporated milk and sugar. And this is the one that has sweetened condensed milk. So now, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but this does have a little bit of like a watery kind of shine on top there. So that's something you usually want to avoid when making pumpkin pie. So far, I'm gonna go for the evaporated milk, and the sugar is gonna be what I think is gonna be the winner here, but we'll wait, we'll give it a shot. We'll test them both out. So there we go, sliced with sweetened condensed milk. Ooh. Gotta get that fat dollop of whipped cream on there. Whipped cream is crucial to pumpkin pie, by the way. This is not like optional. Let's hit it with a little grated nutmeg. Okay, let's see which one of these is better. Now, here's one with the sugar. Give it a little taste. It's so good. Okay. Tastes like classic pumpkin pie. Absolutely delicious. Now let's see if there's a difference between the one made with sugar and the one with the condensed milk. One with sugar, a little bit sweeter. I'm gonna be honest, very, very similar. If I was gonna do it again, I'd go with the one with sugar. Okay, so I'm gonna say the sweeter, tastier one, sugar, evaporated milk. If you wanna use condensed milk though, doesn't matter. If you have a can sitting in your pantry from like 20 years ago, go ahead, use it. But either way, you can't go wrong with this recipe. Give it a shot. Hope you make it. Hope you love it.